Welcome to another Prospects Live team analysis breakdown. I'm your host, believe it or not, Eddie Almaguer. Ralph, it's time to give you some shine. Let you be the color commentator for once. Before we jump into it, we are going to do the Cleveland Indians today, but we want to remind you, if you haven't already seen it somewhere, we will be doing a day one MLB concurrent draft stream on our Prospects Live YouTube, where as the draft goes on, we're going to have a rotating cast of guests jumping in and giving their thoughts on their guys, reacting to hopefully some surprises, and overall having a good night, breaking it down and give you that smart analysis you've come to expect from Prospects Live. Now I want some smart analysis on the Cleveland Indians, Ralph. This is a team that had a good record last year. They have a pretty dynamite farm system, especially on the international market. Generally with picking in the back end of the first round and a couple picks in the top 40, what's the profile that the Indians have leaned on in the last few years? Is there a trend that we can expect from them?
Yeah, they heavily target prep players in the first 3 to 4 rounds over the last 3 years under their current scouting director. And I would imagine they probably don't stray from that all that much. They do have the competitive balance pick at 36, which I think makes them a little bit interesting, gives them a little bit of a bump in terms of bonus pool. But we also know that they're a team that will target college pitching that fits a particular profile. A lot of that comes down to particular characteristics in the fastball in terms of movement profile. We don't have to get too deep in the weeds on that. But if you dig into it, you look at some of the arms that they've worked with, you'll realize that there's a lot of consistencies just in terms of the type of characteristics they have, how a thing moves, where they can locate it, etc. And also slider command is huge to Cleveland. And they tend to target guys like this, whether it's a guy like Aaron Savali and, a few other arms that are in that system, that a lot of it came down to them being able to find a guy like that. He can throw his slider for strikes. We can get that guy to do a little bit more. Plesac is another arm that was very similar to that, which is why I wouldn't be shocked in this draft with so many good college arms available at 23 and having a little extra money, maybe target a high-end prep player at 36. I think they might go college arm at 23 personally.
Yeah, well, this is a system that, we talk about the Dodgers and the Yankees doing so well with pitching development. The Indians are right up there. So with that profile you've given us that they search for, are there names that maybe match already that seem like a match made in heaven for the Indians?
Yeah, and I think there's some arms, particularly at 23 and 56, that I could see them potentially targeting. Number 23, you can see we pulled some video here already. Tanner Burns out of Auburn, who has a tremendous fastball. In my opinion, wrote a scouting report. You guys can check that out on the site where I broke down one of his starts this year versus University of Chicago. Might have some of the best fastball command control in the draft. He'll come out in the first 2 or 3 innings doing nothing but working fastball. He can work it high in the zone, get right on it. He can work it low in the zone and get run. That means he can match it up with his changeup, which is developing, and a pretty good slider, a slider that he can command and control. It tunnels well with the fastball, particularly high in the zone. I think he's a guy that fits some of those characteristics. At 56, I think another arm from the college ranks that could potentially target, and one they've been linked to, is Ian Seymour, a guy that we did a player profile breakdown with Brian Sikowski, went into some of the things that he's done to sort of really tick up his fastball. And I think he has some of those characteristics that Cleveland could potentially target. At 36, I think they go with a more high-end prep player. It wouldn't shock me if you see maybe a guy like Blaze Jordan, who's a famous guy, big bat. They need some power in that organization. We know they don't shy away from thumpers from the prep classes. They have guys like Will Benson in their history that they've gone after, and others as well. And Cleveland will take some risks in the draft, which is why they've kind of had a checkered history with some really big hits, maybe even the later rounds, and then some misses early on as well. But overall, it's a good organization, and I think any prospects that land here, a guy like Daniel Espino, for example, they could take a guy, see problems that he maybe has mechanically. They shortened his arm action, for example, with Espino, and make him into a better player. And I think that's one of the reasons that there's a lot of guys in play here if they fit particular characteristics. And I think those are guys that Cleveland could all target for those reasons.
And certainly we do have Tanner Burns mocked in our mock version 3.0 that we released recently, and certainly 26 in our top 101 that we've also released. So right around that range. And again, I do think Tanner Burns is someone that they can maximize. And I also saw you. I remember you brought up some Casey Mize delivery comparisons, which they ring true. You know, I mean, of course, same university and all that, but a good pick. Now, one last question for you, Ralph, before we sign off on the Indians here. If you are the GM, are you taking Tanner Burns if he's there? Or are you pivoting somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad pick there. But I think I'd be really tempted, and I don't know if he lasts this long. If a guy like Nick Bitsko was there for me at pick 23, he gets past Washington, he gets past some of those teams in the teens that we've heard him rumored toward, or even a Jared Kelly. I would be really tempted if I was the Indians to maybe invest in an arm like that. We've seen him do that with Espino before, who's a guy that they weren't sure, I think, early in draft season was going to drop to him. And then as the draft approached, it seemed like all of a sudden this guy was going to draft to Cleveland. They weren't a team that we heard rumor with Espino at all. And then they go and they, I guess, surprise some people, but they make the pick on draft night. If Bitsko or someone is there, they wouldn't hesitate to do it. And to be honest with you, if I'm the GM and that guy's there, I think those would be interesting picks as well.
Awesome. Well, that's our Cleveland Indians team analysis wrap up. Thanks so much, Ralph. Stay tuned. We have more of these coming. And again, another reminder, a mock draft, well, not a mock draft, excuse me, the MLB draft concurrent live stream we will be doing on June 10th. The real one. That's right. We'll catch you then. Thanks so much.